What's the most money you've made in a single month on YouTube?
No sponsorship, just purely YouTube ad revenue would be 380,000.
What do you think is the fastest path to going from $0 to $1,000 a month right now?
So by far the best strategy and the best way to leverage it is just to
Meet Noah Morris, the 21-year-old who went from a broke Minecraft Let's Player to bringing in up to $400,000 per month with YouTube. Oh, and did I mention that he works as little as 1 day a week sometimes? So I grabbed lunch with Noah to figure out how the heck he does it, and more importantly, what would he do if he was in your shoes right now and had to get back on top?
If you lost everything, reputation, brand, money, team, you're back at zero. How are you getting your first 1,000 subscribers and beyond?
The problem really is that if you enter a really big niche, there's guys like me that if I see you popping off really quickly, I'll come in, I'll swoop in, and I'll probably make like 3-4 channels doing the same thing and basically kind of take over the niche. It's kind of like a game of Monopoly. I like to compare it to that. But if you just start out, especially as a beginner, what I would really do is try to focus on smaller niches that could make you 2 to 10K a month. So think about like sub niches in anime where you, for example, just break down characters from one specific anime. The market cap might not be very big, but maybe you can make 1 or 2K a month of that. And that's a really good starting point to then start scaling into bigger niches. Obviously, you have niches where you can do like $50,000, $100,000. Examples of that would be US politics. There's a lot of views in that, but it's also more competitive once people discover it's possible.
You talked about niche, like finding niches being a really important thing, also finding specific niches. Firstly, how do you do that, and what are the requirements you look for in those small niches?
So basically what we look for then is areas of interest where there's a lot of demand, not so much supply. So what I mean by that is what you'll see in those areas would be very small channels, very recent channels. I would say like somewhere from 3 to 6 months that on their first, third, fourth video, immediately got 100, 200, maybe 1 million views. And that usually indicates, especially if the videos are low quality, that there's just a lot of viewers looking for that type of similar video. And as soon as you then make a similar video, the YouTube algorithm goes, hey, finally there's a similar video. Let us push this video to this audience that's been craving this type of video, right? Because they know what the audience has watched so far. And if there aren't a lot of similar videos, they just aren't able to push that to the audience, right? But all of a sudden, if then is supply, then the YouTube algorithm goes, all right, there's supply, let's push this video to that audience that's been looking for this for so long. And that's really the strength of that kind of strategy. And we call it outlier channels, or you can just call it a good niche, right? Where if you have a cluster of those small channels that blow up very quickly, even with really, really bad quality, that's usually why that phenomenon is happening in the algorithm. And that's kind of what we target. But we look at the data really to kind of identify those areas.
When you say the data, to get really nitty gritty for people, what are the stats that you would actually be looking for as a minimum on channels like?
So preferably what you'd be looking at is 2 different scores. So the age of the channel, and then how many views is the channel getting, and are those views consistent? So on average, good niche, what you see is 3 channels that started in the last, let's say 4 months. Every time they post a video, most of them get above 100,000 views, depending on the RPM, obviously. If you're in an anime niche, you'd want to see way more than that, like 500,000. But if you're just in a niche where Americans get targeted, 100K would be more than enough, right?
And that's long form, not short.
Yeah, those are long form. It's very important you see a cluster of them, because basically, if you only see one channel, there could be so many variables that make that specific channel work. And this is also very important if you're doing outlier research, for example. You need to make sure that there are similar outliers on smaller channels as well, because otherwise it could just be in a fluke. It's the same as if you do a data science study. You can't just take a very small sample group, because then you can have specific edge cases and you could make the wrong interpretations. It's the same on YouTube. You need at least like 3 channels that have kind of done something very similar and very recent that have all gotten similar results. So you can kind of confirm your hypothesis. I think what YouTube is primarily, if you're very good at YouTube, you're very good at pattern recognition. So finding, okay, what made this work across multiple channels. If you're good at that type of pattern recognition, you'll also be very good at YouTube.
Let's talk about money a little bit. What would you say is the most money you've made in a single month on YouTube?
Just YouTube revenue alone, so no sponsorship, just purely YouTube ad revenue would be 380,000. So that was actually, like I said, like last May was the biggest month. And I'll tell you what caused that. There were 2 situations, actually 3 situations that caused that, which is first of all, there was really big scandals going on in the celebrity space, and I obviously own a bunch of celebrity channels. So we hopped on that. And then in order to get $380,000 a month of revenue, you have have to realize how much volume you have to put out. Most people will never ever get there. But what we were doing is uploading 10 videos a day on a singular channel. Those are long form videos. 3 channels doing 10 videos a day in the same niche. So that's the kind of volume it takes. People often ask, like, how is that even possible? $380,000 a month. You have to keep in mind, I'm uploading 30 long form videos a day, and I'm doing the same thing adjacent to that in the US politics niche. So that would be videos like Trump just reacted to a Lincoln parody ad, something like that, right?
So someone watching this, again, literally at zero, and again, regardless of whether they're a personal channel or a faceless channel, what do you think is the fastest path to going from zero to $1,000 a month right now?
Okay, so by far the best strategy and the best way to leverage it is just to be a personal camera. Well, it is relevant to faceless guys, but a way bigger competitive advantage as a personality YouTuber is be less attached to what niche you're gonna make a channel in. Again, if you wanna get to $1,000 a month, or you're just frustrated with like YouTube not working and you wanna be on camera, just get detached of the niche you're in. Because there's so many amazing niches you can get in where you can, well, scale way past $1,000 a month just by being a personality YouTuber in a niche dominated by faces channels. There's so many interesting niches, celebrity news, for example, where if you just actually had a good personality, people just come back every day and you'd beat every single other faces channel just because YouTube recognizes when viewers come back to your videos, right? So the satisfaction score would be higher and you get pushed way past everyone else. And if you're able to leverage the strategy I told earlier and just be a little bit less connected to the niche you make videos in and instead love the process of making videos, you can scale to $1,000 a month way faster by just following the data instead of always doing what you feel like doing, right? If you want to make this a business, sometimes business isn't going to be fun. You have to love making videos, but yeah, sometimes it can't be your mini golfing hobby. It's too niche, like you're never gonna make $1,000 a month with that. Like if you wanna make it the full-time income, run it like business and then love creating the videos. That's the difference between people making $0 a month on YouTube and people making tens of thousands of dollars on YouTube.
So you're saying like almost the type of content that you're creating, even if you're a personal brand channel, it's just a vehicle to sort of take you to a result and then fall in love with being a YouTuber rather than the content you're creating. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, exactly. So really what it comes down to is if you just want to do it as a full-time job, that's just the way to go about it. Like if you just want to do it as a hobby, sure, you can do it about whatever you want. But if your goal is to become a content creator, follow the data because you have the biggest competitive advantage and people just don't see this. They don't realize this, how big the opportunity is here by just doing the same strategy as faces channels, but then on a personal brand. Because all of a sudden you have the advantage of faces channels going viral super quickly, but you can drag it out in a very long way. So you can have a very sustainable brand afterwards, which is an amazing advantage you can have.
You give a lot of advice on Twitter, but what's the best YouTube advice you've ever received?
That's a really good question. I think the best ever YouTube advice I've ever received, which is just double down on what works. I know people love to be creative and I get it, but if you really want to have a consistent income, just double down on what works. Every YouTube strategist says this, but so little YouTubers actually follow it. So let's say you upload a video, right, that got 1 million views, just do 100 variations of that same thing. Like, trust me, it doesn't really get as boring as you think. As long as you're creative in the way you are doing the variations, it's still going to be a lot of fun. So if a niche is working for me, I'll make 5 channels in the same niche. I'll just double down because as YouTubers, you're often also very seasonal, right? You fall out of a trend or maybe your viewers are going somewhere else. You have to make money when you are making money. And if you don't, that's when you get into financial problems and that's not the place you want to be in because you lose the passion for the craft you're doing, right?
So another thing I really appreciate about you, because you have so many channels and you're so technical and tactical, you know a lot of little quirks or tactics that kind of work. What are some like really specific actionable tactics that maybe not a lot of people would know about, but that you feel like popping off right now?
So more people are starting to see this, but super long form videos, 30 minutes to 45 minutes are actually popping off right now. And of course have an amazing RPM. But the reason they're popping off is that there's more TV viewers. And actually what YouTube is trying to do, and they talked about this as well in the event, is they're trying to make series. That's what they're trying to compete with, like cable TV. So if you can make series that are very long form, 30 to 45 minutes that TV viewers would watch, that's a very great opportunity right now.
Is there anything else that comes to mind?
I would probably say when you start a new channel, be a bit more patient because especially in the summer summer months, but also with recent algorithm changes, YouTube just takes a longer time to push out new channels. And I'll tell you, for example, what you'll see is that, you know how they edit the verifications, where you have to show your ID or show your face, and also the monetization process takes longer nowadays. The reason for that is because obviously there's a lot of 100% AI generated content, and a lot of people actually think I do AI generated content. None of my videos are ever AI generated, nothing, not the thumbnail, not the script, nothing. But I think what they're doing is they're slowing down that monetization and pushing process to build up that trust score. So in general, I'd recommend just being a little bit more patient. If your channels were blowing up, let's say a year ago, the algorithm is different nowadays, especially on newer channels. So it really takes a bit of time to kind of get the channel warmed up.
When you say a bit of time, to give people sort of a minimum benchmark to aim for, if you don't want to put in the work for at least X number of months, don't even bother. What's the minimum criteria people should expect?
Okay, so X number of months of work is different than how long I would give a specific channel of time. Okay. So at least give YouTube 1.5 years before you expect any result. I know it sounds like crazy long time, but it's like saying, oh yeah, why am I not a pro surfer after 3 months of learning how to surf?
You just get spit right out of them, and you just drop in and just smack the lip.
No, of course not. You'll be barely able to stand properly after 3 months. You at least need a year of training every single day. And then another very interesting thing would be when you start a new channel, at least give it something 20, 30 videos. I see a lot of people quit before that. Normally, if you're starting a branded channel, like try to go at least your 30 videos before you think, okay, maybe I should change my strategy, because sometimes it takes a longer time. Another really interesting fact, actually, when I think about it, is you have to be very careful with the nuances between your video topics. Very slight changes in the topics of videos can result in completely different audiences recently. So, for example, I run a UX design channel, and we were doing redesigns, and this is a really big tip I could give, because this is a mistake I made myself recently, is I was making videos, I redesigned and then X big social media platform, like the UI. And basically, I was thinking like, okay, I'm gonna attract a bunch of UX designers because I wanted to build a software or a subscription service I could then promote on that Faces channel. And I thought, yeah, I'm gonna get a bunch of those people. But what I ended up attracting, which is in hindsight is obvious, is all those users from those social media platforms. And even though it was about design, you're still attracting people who are just interested in a social media platform. So I switched to kind of like more to how-tos, and then obviously it gets more niche. Even though this sounds very obvious advice, I still see a lot of people making the mistakes, and you should constantly survey, and the community post is a very great way to kind of keep track of who you're targeting. For example, what's your profession? What do you struggle with? Is it UX design, or I'm just here for fun? Or community post polling is actually super underrated.
So quick question on this, if you don't want to talk about this, because I know it's a bit of a gray area, that's okay. Sometimes the cold start can be a bit tricky at the moment. Sometimes maybe buying a channel to begin with can be a bit faster. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so that's in the Faces space. We call that aged YouTube channels, and primarily it should be a monetized aged YouTube channel. And the reason we buy those is that the channel has an existing audience profile. So let's say you'd want to start a YouTube channel about football. It sounds obvious, but you can maybe buy a YouTube channel in NBA. It doesn't have to be completely correlated, but usually there's some overlap between NBA and football, right? By doing that, the YouTube algorithm can already start experimenting with different audience profiles. So let's say you all of a sudden on an NBA channel, you upload a football video, and there's a group of football fans also watching NBA videos. The algorithm will notice a stronger response from those football fans, actually quicker than on a new channel, push out those videos to a football audience, and thus we can get channels off the ground way quicker than if it's a brand new channel. Obviously, if it's a brand new channel, you also have to monetize the channel, which takes extra long. But only really recommend doing this if you really know what you're talking about, because again, there's a lot of things you should look at before you buy one.
Some quick questions. Where do you buy these age channels? What costs do you normally ballpark look at them for? And also, how big are those channels usually in terms of views and subscribers?
Just above the requirements. So preferably you want at least a couple of videos that have gone viral, because that means the trust score is higher. If there's a couple of videos with 100,000 views plus, that's a really, really good sign. The channel's subscriber count doesn't matter much as long as it's above maybe 2,000 subscribers and it meets the monetization criteria.
4,000 watch hours.
Yeah, 4,000 watch hours. But yeah, you'd really want to see a couple of viral videos. And then obviously lastly, there should be any strikes or community guideline strikes on there. And preferably you want a channel as close to the niche you're going after as possible, because that really makes it so much easier to just throw a channel.
And where do you find these channels to buy them?
Usually I find them through my own network. I either find them through my Discord community, because a lot of people are buying selling channels, but you have to be very careful because there's a lot of scammers in the space who will say, oh yeah, this is an age channel, and it's actually someone botted, like view botted the YouTube channel to make it seem an age channel. But there are some marketplaces, but again, both you have to be very careful because a lot of it is like kind of sketchy. In general, I've noticed better performance on age channel, and I think a lot of people from the faces space would also say so.
What would you like to leave people with? Again, we're talking to small YouTubers, usually people from zero. What's some advice you want to leave?
I just think the biggest thing is become less emotionally involved with YouTube. Look at it as an actual business, right? If your end goal is making it an actual business, right, you should treat it as a business and not as a hobby. Yeah. And I think that's the biggest aspect of it. And also obviously patience, but that's a very obvious piece of advice. And then lastly, I would say network and make a small group of people you can show your videos to. Because here's the thing with a lot of small YouTubers, and it's really funny, kind of like the Dunning-Kruger effect. They make videos and I think, oh my God, these are the best videos ever. And actually they're down here in the idiot trench.
Yeah, their mums, that was a really good video.
Yeah, that was a really good video. But you need to get someone who can just honestly say to you, like, this was the worst video I've ever watched.
Where do you find these people?
You can either go on Discord. There's a lot of YouTube Discord communities. I have one, but if you just
any good ones that you can name, you can plug your own one.
Yeah, there's a Discord community called YouTube Faces. That's more for Faces creators, obviously. But you can just look up like YouTube Discord or whatever. They keep a bunch of communities. Also, Twitter is a really great place to start networking. I think the first place you'd go is Twitter and just start replying to everyone, and then maybe DM them like, hey, I'm doing this channel. Would you make a group chat with me? Maybe we can give each other feedback. Those are really great places to start. I think if you're constantly in your own bubble and you keep making the same mistakes over and over again without realizing, you're stuck in a kind of like endless loop. And I think that that community feedback is going to get you out of that loop the fastest.
Awesome, man.
Yep.
Appreciate that.
No worries.
Noah is one of the smartest people I know. I feel so lucky to have met and learned so much from him. If you want to learn more from Noah, I'll leave links below. But Noah's not the only person I learned from, because I had this conversation with him at VidSummit, where I also got to meet people like Matt Pat, Jenny Hoyos, Tom Billiou, Jordan Matter, and many more. So if you want to see those conversations, click the video on screen. They share a ton of gems.